Nou hoop ik dat ze dit echt lelijk willen. Dat was de opdracht. Maar ja, hoe lelijk is lelijk, hè? Zo.
Oh, it's a lot of fun, isn't it? It's like moving into a new house and decorating. Maybe one day I have a place this big. Yeah, it's great fun.
En dan moeten we de achterkant van de auto met krikken en hondjes en kunst en vliegwerk proberen recht voor de deur te krijgen. En dan kan hij er precies in.
All good artwork is part of a larger set of reactions and interpretations.
Daragua.
It's ridiculous. Tragedy dressed up as a comedy.
Boomp.
And this is an opportunity for us to show Europe about things that are happening back home for us in Australia, about the social justice issues and things that affect Aboriginal people. Australia's treatment of Aboriginal people, Aboriginal women.
In the late 80s, BMW had a campaign to get artists, and just before, for example, Andy Warhol died, he decorated a BMW. So there's a BMW museum, and there are major artists. And 80s was really kind of exotic boom time for Aboriginal art, and one of the kind of doyens of Aboriginal art, Michael Nelson Jackamara, was invited to do a car. And so we're not criticising him in any way, because at that time the dissemination of Aboriginal art was the single biggest factor in bringing visibility and recognition to Aboriginal culture.
The car as the highlight of the show for me is what defined whether blacks lived in the suburb, because all of the crappy cars were in the front of the blacks' house. So people say people knew where the Aborigines lived because of the bomb cars.
I have a reflex, which is when I hear really horrible things, particularly to do with things like racial discrimination, really disgusting things, I laugh. There's a lot of laughs in this show, and I want the audience to laugh, but in that way, laugh away and enjoy it. A man from the desert who doesn't speak English very well, being asked to put what were essentially temporary, sacred designs on a luxury vehicle that most black fellas could not afford, that is, in the broader sense, also ruining the environment. And now, the car, of course, in artwork changes over generations and people will view it in different ways at different times. That car, without blaming Michael Nelson, means something very different.
Het is wel grappig, helemaal overgespoten. Gaat nog overgespoten worden waarschijnlijk. Ja. Ben je daar al, Daniel?
I sent the press release to a friend of mine, and she said, "Isn't it just emphasising the stereotype, making the subject of your show, the main subject of your show, a car that is beaten up?"
But that's the thing with cliches, is cliches are mostly true. That's what they say about the things. Well, cliches are cliche because it's mostly true.
Yeah. And I photoshopped the Aboriginal face in. This would never happen in Australia. No. It would be too embarrassing.
Yeah, can you? That's awesome.
So you're in multiple drag. You're a woman in men's clothing, but also with black. So you're dragging and dragging. But you know the whole point is that you're a white woman, and this is also a white gallery for Aboriginal art. So it plays off the museum as well. Yeah, that's all you're doing. Well, people come here to learn about Aboriginal art. Well, she's not going to tell them anything. She's just going to ask them what they know.
Vertel me alles wat je weet over Aboriginal kunst en cultuur.
First job was car painting.
Really?
First ever job, yeah. The masking up, cutting in.
Despite the incredibly confronting, insulting nature of the work, it's only actually, in my opinion, only through that you can actually communicate in a egalitarian way, because you avoid sentimentality. So we are unveiling this car in the opening, and that's like opening the door to the real Michael Nelson car. That's it's the grim reality. And so it's covered in a Union Jack, it's dented, it's now old.
It might prompt the audience to want to look a bit further into the continent that has been left with the most Dutch names in history, apart from your own. It hits me like a ton of bricks when I return home. It hurts even more because we're probably going to be, like, you know, high-fiving and punching the air when we return home, thinking we've done a fantastic artistic deed here by exposing this. But you go back home and what we were discussing the other night, somebody says, "So how was it?" And you start to tell them and they say, and they just kind of glaze over, or they talk about how their cat got hit by a car.